Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to go over 7 things that'll ruin your financial future in your 20s. Your 20s are when many of the financial habits that shape the rest of your life are formed. Not only is it a common decade for you to learn financial skills that'll carry over throughout your entire life, it's also the most important decade for compounding to take place so you get the best return on investment for your money. You don't need to be perfect, but avoiding a handful of common mistakes can dramatically improve your financial future. Avoiding these mistakes can be the difference of millions of dollars over the course of your life. So let's get into it. Number 1, not learning a marketable skill. Your greatest wealth building tool is your ability to earn income. Investing in skills that employers or clients value is essential to your career and your ability to have a financially free and fruitful life. Everyone talks about investing in the stock market so you can achieve X amount of returns year over year, but sometimes we neglect to talk about the investment of personal skills and development that will give you the cash flow that you really need to benefit from investing in the first place. This can come in a lot of forms. You can learn coding, video editing, sales. There's so many different skills that the market values, and it's your job to find the one that fits you best. It doesn't have to be your dream job, but ideally it has to be something that you can enjoy over a long period of time and or that you're uniquely good at. Maybe you're good at small talk and talking to other people and making conversation, so sales makes a lot of sense. Maybe you're on the quieter side, which is like someone like me, and you prefer to work on a computer, so maybe something like coding makes sense. Maybe you're a big person, guy or girl, so physical labor makes a lot of sense. Whatever it is, you need to figure that out and you need to learn it. Promotions, job changes, and specialized skills often have a bigger long-term impact than trying to save a few extra dollars each month. In my prior video, I said that cutting expenses was one of the biggest reasons I was able to pay off debt, and that's still true. Cutting expenses is the easiest thing to do right away when you decide you need more money to pay off a debt. But when it comes to building wealth, your career and your skills is the most important tool by far. This is because the ceiling to earning more is much, much higher than the floor that exists with saving money. For example, I can only whittle down my monthly expenses so much, but eventually you will run out of things to cut from your expenses. But there's way more room for your income to grow if you're able to solve an important issue or have a marketable, valuable skill, which is essentially the same thing. And if there's a way to scale it beyond being paid to solve that problem through only trading your time and labor, then your potential is even higher, just like starting a business and being able to build a business at scale that solves one problem for a bunch of different people all at once. I talked about the 3-year rule in my last video, and this is kind of where that applies. If you haven't found that thing yet, then you need to start figuring it out ASAP, because it'll take you about 3 years for you to truly become proficient at something. So if you start now in 2026 trying to learn something, ideally like 2029 is when you're actually really going to be able to say that you're proficient or like potentially an expert in. And if you have already started, then you need to identify where you are in that 3-year cycle and keep pushing forward as much as you can. Ultimately, everyone learns at different speeds, but this is a good rule of thumb to keep in mind. Number 2, lifestyle creep. As income increases, many people immediately feel the need to upgrade their lifestyle. If I get a promotion at work, I shouldn't immediately be thinking about what I can add to my life to take up all the new net income I would be receiving. And I'm not saying you should be a stickler and just save every single last penny of new income and never spend it. But if you do plan to upgrade certain things in your life, make sure it is genuinely reasonable to upgrade, and that it will truly make a difference in your quality of life, and that you can afford it at the same time easily. A few things I always think about when buying something or upgrading my current lifestyle to a certain degree if I make more money is, number 1, does this make my life more convenient? So is it going to shorten the time span to get a quick remedial task like done? Stuff like that can be worth it, you know? It just kind of depends. And number 2 is, am I buying this because I want it, or is it something or someone is telling me that I should want for myself? For example, TikTok and the whole Labubu craze. TikTok was telling you you wanted a Labubu. Everyone wanted a Labubu. You need a Labubu. You need this. It's a status symbol. It's all of this stuff. But now it's over. And isn't it funny how quickly people have moved on from Labubus? It's almost like a time relic at this point of just like the the period that we were at in our lives. The point is don't try to keep up with the Joneses. It's not worth it. Your personal worth/happiness should never be tied to how other people perceive you. Who cares if someone thinks less of you because you don't have the same lifestyle as them, or they think that makes them better than you, that they have a better life than you, and so they look down on you? You shouldn't be friends with people like that in the first place, or you should understand what kind of role they play in your life. Like sometimes there are people who are like that, but you need to understand that, okay, maybe they're just playing a certain type of role in your life that allows you to do X, Y, and Z or whatever, you know what I'm saying? Not everyone can be the perfect person, but you just have to know kind of like where they stand in your life. You are your own person. You live for yourself and those that you value as someone meaningful to you, and you should act according to your own personal values and beliefs and not someone else's. Number 3, buying too much car or apartment/house. Lifestyle creep also kind of leads to this next point. Don't overspend on your car or your house/apartment. I picked those two specifically because for a lot of people, it is the two biggest line items in your expenses. Obviously, rent or a mortgage would be the biggest line item, but if your car is higher than either of those, then you just have to, we're gonna have a real long personal chat because that's crazy. I know there's a lot of car people out there, so I don't want to try to be too harsh, because even though I drive an old 2011 Toyota Camry, I too want to upgrade the whip eventually. Like, I know that at the end of the day, my car is really just a tool to get me from work and maybe the occasional weekend activity every few weeks. But I know that's not everyone's prerogative. Some people like to have a nice car because a lot of the time, you know, for most people, it's a social status like indicator. You know what I mean? I totally get that. Me personally, I only fill up my tank like every 3 weeks or so. My daily commute's only about 15 minutes. So, you know, I'm not even driving enough to show it off like that either. And I don't go to car swap meets and car meetups and all that kind of stuff. So I can't really speak for people who do that. But you just need to be wary about how much your car, just because you're able to afford the monthly payment doesn't necessarily mean it's a good purchase. But if you like cars, then that's okay, but just try to be reasonable. A good rule for cars specifically, a good rule to follow when it comes to how much car you can afford is the 20-3-8 rule. So 20/3/8. I have a calculator in the description by the Money Guys. It's just like a calculator that shows you kind of how much car you would be able to afford based on this rule. And the rule goes as this: 20% down payment with a 3-year or less loan and only 8% of your gross monthly income. Your gross, not your net, your gross. It's pretty strict, and I can already hear people in the background saying man, that's so strict, bro, I can't do that. But it's a good place to start when you're thinking about car affordability. At the very least, your payments should not exceed 10% of your net after tax monthly income at any point in time. Especially if you don't plan to have a 20% down payment or don't plan to pay it off in 3 years or less. For renting or a mortgage, is generally 28% of your gross monthly income. That's a good rule of thumb, but it can be very cost of living dependent. So if you live in a really high cost of living area, sometimes it's unavoidable that you're gonna have to pay more. I personally have broken that rule, but not by much, and I also don't have a car payment because I bought my car in full thanks to a family discount. And I would say my other expenses are pretty low in comparison to my income already. So not having a car payment plus low expenses, it kind of makes up the difference. So just take what I say with a grain of salt, but understand that's kind of the baseline that you should be looking at. You can move up a little bit, you can move down a little bit, but that's kind of the baseline is 28% gross monthly income, so before taxes. An example of this is if you make $7K a month, which is reasonably about $85K a year. That's not too high, that's not too low. There's a lot of people in high cost of living areas that make around this amount, more or less. Then your rent and mortgage ideally shouldn't exceed $1960. That's 28% of your monthly income. This is basically just your baseline, and it's what's generally considered reasonable. But this was with the idea that you have a car payment, and like I said, I don't have a car payment, so I can rate, I would raise it up personally if you were set up in that way, but just take that into consideration. Number 4 is having an emergency fund. Listen, guys, unexpected expenses are inevitable. The Federal Reserve Survey of Household Economics and Decision Making says that 30% of Americans, 37% say they can't cover a $400 expense. Over a third of Americans can't cover $400. 30% say they can't cover 3 months of living expenses if they were to lose their primary source of income tomorrow. Basically, 1 in 3 Americans are just one unfortunate event away from being screwed financially. I mean, imagine not having any type of failsafe for your life. You need to get this fund as soon as possible. Not having an emergency fund is in it of itself an emergency. It helps you avoid relying on high interest debt when life happens, and it will happen eventually at some point. Something will come up that you will have to take care of, and it will hit you and it will blindside you. So start by getting $1,000 ideally of liquid cash for a rainy day and just leave it uninvested. Like, just keep it in your Chase account. If you have Wealthfront, keep it in there. Like, that would be nice. You know, high yield savings account, basically. Eventually do the same until you can get to 3 months of expenses. That one you can do a little bit like over a longer period of time, but $1,000 you should try to get as soon as possible. Even if you still are managing debt, get to 1,000, then pay off the rest of your debt. It's that important of an issue. And for extra credit, if you're able to get to 6 months, then you'll really be protected. You'll really be able to go out and take chances with your life and do things that you've always wanted to do. Anything more than that is probably overkill for most people. Like I said before, just keep this cash in a high yield savings account. You can use that interest that you get from the high yield savings account to build up the account even faster to get to $1,000 and help you retain its purchasing power over time until you inevitably have to use it. It can give you that peace of mind to pursue something you've always wanted to pursue, but never had the time to. Especially if you're in your 20s and you have like low amount of responsibilities relative to, you know, being in your 30s, having a kid, or being in your 40s, blah, 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 blah. But it's very important, if you end up using that emergency fund for something, you must fill it back up over time until you get it back to where it was. This is just so, you know, you always are ready to go. You don't have nothing that's going to blindside you. Number 5, high interest debt. This is often people's biggest momentum killer when it comes to personal finance. Credit card debt compounds against you. Prioritize paying off high interest balances and avoid carrying debt whenever possible. We've talked before about the compounding returns of the stock market, but credit card interest essentially works and can be thought of in the same way. If you are paying off a debt on a credit card and its interest rate is 24%, for example, you can kind of look at this 24% as like a 24% return in the stock market. Some people also think you need to keep a balance on their credit card to build your credit score, but that's simply not true. I've never kept a balance on mine or paid a single cent of interest on a credit card, I think ever, as far as I can tell. Maybe like one time and it was like $1, but my score is in the 800s. So, and that's not to brag or anything, but that's just to let you know that keeping a balance on your credit card is not what affects the score. There's other factors like your credit utilization per month. Ideally you want it to be low, like how long you've had other credit cards open, like the average age of your account, like stuff like that matters more. You can actually look this stuff up on your own, but that's not the point of this video. But anyways, you want to try your best to never hold a balance from month to month, and if you do, come up with a plan to try and eliminate that balance as quickly as possible. Also, if you manage your credit card correctly and you never pay interest on it, then you'll be able to start taking advantage of cashback rewards that they have. This is like a marginal way to make a little bit more money. The way I use my credit cards personally is I use it to make all my normal everyday purchases, and I pay it all off at the end of the month or whenever the payoff date is for each card. Each card might be a little different, but whatever. When you pair this with a well-made budget, you'll never overspend and you'll be able to get some marginal amounts back just for spending like normal. Over time, this can add up and you can use it all at the end of the year as a gift to yourself if you want, or you can use it to pay off any other outstanding debt that you might have. Shop around to see what benefits each card offers. For example, I use my Amazon credit card all the time because it gives me 5% back on anything I order online with it. So I just buy groceries, household supplies, just about anything you can think of. I buy with my Amazon gift card and it pays off for I can use it to pay off my Amazon Prime for the next year and, you know, all that stuff. So it really does add up. Just think of it as like a little extra that you can take advantage of. But only do this if you know you can manage your card correctly though, because If you still have a bad spending habit, then the credit card rewards won't be enough to offset the high interest rate. Is the 24% interest higher than the 5% cash back reward? Yes, it is. So you just got to make sure you use it with caution. Number 6, not investing or saving for retirement. Time is your biggest investing advantage. Starting early gives compounding decades to work in your favor, even if you begin with small amounts. The earlier you start, the faster your money grows and accelerates. Sure, you could live with the mindset that you will never know when your last day will be, but what if you do make it to that age and the remaining years of your life are miserable and are the most difficult because the current you, decided to be selfish to the older you? You owe your future you a better life than having to work well past retirement age. I started simple early on with a broad S&P 500 ETF like VU or SPY. I also have a Fidelity one. And as you learn more about the other options, you can expand into different assets that you might have higher conviction on, that might be a little bit more concentrated, things like Bitcoin, XLK, like a technology fund, another NASDAQ, like QQQ, NASDAQ 100 type ETF. There's a bunch of different options, but it's good to start with the simple stuff and then start to build more conviction in other things as time goes on. It's okay to take risk in the market when you're young. At the end of the day, investing is all about time in the market, not timing the market. There's a big difference. The best decade for compounding is your 20s for most people, unless you were a genius and got started as a teenager, but I know that's not most people's reality. This can cost you millions down the line, so make sure you try to get into the market as young as you possibly can. Even if it's only a few bucks right now, $50, $100, doesn't really matter. Just start to build the habit over time. When I first started to invest, I really could only afford $50 or $100. And now I'm at multiple times of that, and I've been able to stick to it month to month because I built that muscle memory. Number 7, sports gambling and prediction markets. Finally, there is gambling. Gambling is something that has become a more recent issue in the last few decades. I know what it feels like to feel the rush of a winning bet and feel like a genius and like a ball knower. Like, I just know this stuff. Like, trust me, I'm all into football and the UFC and all that stuff, and I think I have an edge all the time, I have this, there's like an innate desire in us to want to gamble and feel like a winner. But at the end of the day, you need to smell the Kool-Aid, man. Like, the deck is always stacked against you. Sportsbooks and casinos have what is called the VIG built in. The VIG, or juice, is basically the fee that the sportsbooks build into the odds that give them a mathematical edge, making it so bettors lose money on average over the long run. They're just using math against you. It's how they never got a business, and you are always the sucker. And even if you start winning too much, they could just cut you off. Like, it's BS. They can just cut you off, suspend your account, kick you out. They could do anything they want to you if you start winning too much. Prediction markets are a little more fair odds-wise because the odds aren't set by the casino. They're not set by the house. They're effectively decided by the market itself. The company isn't setting the lines to be rigged against you, but they make up for it in the fees that it costs to quote unquote buy shares for the outcome of the event. You should treat gambling and prediction markets purely as entertainment, nothing more. It's not an investment, it's not side income. Regular losses can quietly drain money that you otherwise could have been using to build wealth. Every time you lose money, you will also have this desire to try to win it back, and win it back like twofold. In that way, it can become like a never-ending doom loop. Like, you just are constantly trying to win back what you lost, and then they just take more from you, and then, and that's kind of the issue with a lot of people, is they just continue playing to try to win stuff back, and then they lose all their money. And it's impossible nowadays to escape gambling ads. They're quite literally everywhere. I mean, I see Kevin Hart and Shaq and Drewski and all these people trying to tell me to hop on DraftKings, bro. Like, I don't want to hop on DraftKings. They're literally everywhere, and it's estimated that 90 to 95% of players lose money. So why do so many people still play? It's because it's a dopamine rush. Addict gamblers exhibit the same types of tendencies that drug addicts exhibit when it comes to drug abuse. If you see it as a way to make money in a real way, you really need to look yourself in the mirror and reevaluate your stance on it. You will lose money over a long enough period of time. You are far better off using that money somewhere else to make your life better. It's all about moderation. I'm not gonna lie, I do gamble like from time to time if I feel like I have a real advantage over the line for a matchup or whatever, or just purely for fun, like, oh, dude, it's the World Cup. I'm going to throw $50 on this. But I do it with money I know I can afford to lose. And when I place a bet, I just assume I'm losing it. It is what it is. It's gone. Like once I place that bet down, it's out of sight, out of mind. In conclusion, building wealth isn't about finding one perfect investment. It's about consistently avoiding major mistakes, increasing your income, living below your means, and investing over time. If you can avoid these 7 traps, you'll put yourself in a much stronger financial position than most people your age. So continue to stack, continue to be consistent, and let's all win together. And that's pretty much all I have for you guys. Please like, subscribe, comment down below if you think I missed anything, if there's any other things that might cook your finances. I would like to hear them, and maybe someone else is thinking about that too and hasn't heard that before and might be doing it, so it might help someone else. So anyways, thank you guys. Have a good one. Bye.